Welcome to Beyond Talking Points, the Little Visionaries Bookstore. I'm Bridgitte Jackson-Buckley. Today, I'm speaking with Valerie June Hockett. Valerie June is a singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and author of Maps for the Modern World. Welcome, Valerie June.
Thanks for having me, Bridgitte. I'm honored to be a part.
Oh, I'm so happy to see you. It's just so nice to speak with you today. I'm so excited to talk about these beautiful poems you have in the book. Okay, so in the foreword of Maps for the Modern World, you write, while we all hope for a brighter world, it can be difficult to see how to navigate through the raging storms. I have to believe we are creators of the world we see each day, and that the stillness can be felt in the wake of every storm holds the key to the map of all change. So what was the origin of your interest in stillness? Did it arise as a result of a personal crisis you experienced, or were you always kind of leaning towards that?
Well, I think that with many people, we experience crisis pretty, throughout our life. If you live long enough, you will have to go through some changes and stuff. So you try to find a place of stillness in order to learn how to navigate through all of that might occur in your life. But I really strive to move the conversation in a different way, the way of people want to hear about your sorrow and your pain as some kind of validation for you being able to say, hey, we can live in a joyful world and we can live in harmony and it can be beautiful. But I don't think that we have to be attached to the drama of or trauma of a past story to let each other shine. And I think our attachment to that is something that really started with the first humans and us fighting for survival and fighting to exist in all of the with predators and with other tribes and things like that being around. We had to be in an animalistic way. But I think we live in our nation, especially in a time when we can begin to rewrite the story and the narrative. And the narrative can be one like what Dr. King said when he said, I have a dream, that we are living in harmony and judged by the content of our character versus any other thing, versus our trauma, versus our crises, versus our pain, any of those things. So I'm striving for freedom within myself when I say that.
Very nice, very nice. So you're okay, so trying to take the attention off of the trauma, the events, everything, and in the past, and to just focus on qualities that you'd like to see emerge: happiness, peace, being in the moment, being in the present, being right now. But my question is, let's go back to stillness a little bit because I'm curious. Some people, I have just found, like, when you say you meditate or how important the present moment is or stillness, it's not always met with welcoming ears. Some people may be just dismissive of it, not understanding the effects of how beneficial it really is to quiet your mind. So was there something pivotal for you that you really understood? Stillness permeates everything else. It brings this calm and serenity to you that not just in this one, but you take to the recording studio, you take to the concert, you take to the grocery store. So when did you really understand the importance of stillness?
I think it really came with being a person who makes noise. As a musician, that's what I do. I make music and I get noisy and loud and I create this, soundscape and sound space for people. And that requires a lot of quiet time and personal time. And I find that when I'm in a creative mode, I can't be creative without also having a flip side. They always say you don't know what's going on inside a person's home. They can seem like everything's happy and great, but inside the home, it could be total chaos. Well,
Right.
inside my home, after I get off stage or whatever, I have to have silence. I have to be in a place of stillness. And it's never quiet, believe it or not. There's always something, some sound, some beautiful, melody or something there, but I don't hear those melodies if I'm too in the world, that
Mm-hmm.
physical world. I have to be able to live in two worlds. I need the duality. I need to be able to say, I need the stillness, and I know from that place is going to grow all of these creative seeds, whether it's drawing or writing poems or doing music or dancing, whatever it is. I'm going to be able to be my strongest creatively if I allow myself to have that. And an example of that is yesterday, I woke up early like usual, did my jog, did my yoga, did my meditation, and I drug myself through all of that. And I was like, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm tired. I need to lay down. And I just
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
laid down at 5 p.m. and I just did my breathing and I ended up falling asleep and woke up today and I felt so rejuvenated. But learning to stop and like be in that stillness and say, that's okay. That's what I need to be more creative the next day is super important. And we need to honor that in ourselves. It's a way of self care that I've had to learn. It hasn't been easy because I like to be up doing stuff. I like to be in motion. And also I've learned that stillness has to be found in motion. As a traveling artist, I found that I wasn't home. I didn't always have home outside of what is here. And I had to learn how to find stillness as I'm boarding a plane, as getting in a cab, as I'm get going on stage, just for my own sanity to be able to like turn the light switch on and be in that space, levitating in my mind's eye. So
Yeah, that's really important.
yeah, it's a coping
Mhm.
mechanism, I guess, in some ways.
Yeah, but it's important too that you have to acknowledge what you need, and where you need your quiet moments of reflection, like I mean, even though it's just one person, it's just you, it's like regrouping so that you can continue on and do what you need to do. And it's okay, if you need a moment of rest. And sometimes people might feel like, oh, I never take a nap or do anything, but it's so beneficial. And it's like I find once you see the benefits of stillness, you definitely start to seek it. So I understand when you say like you take it with you when you travel. That's very nice. Okay, so the first section of the book focuses on consciousness and awareness, the level of perception. We know perception is the lens through which we view the world and our experiences. And the poems in this section of the book bring our attention back to ourselves and the importance of our inner world. So, for example, in the poem Awareness, it's a lighthearted, playful poem, and it suggests openness and wonder. With many pressures, raging storms, and uncertainty in life, how do you steadily maintain the childlike wonder and lightheartedness reflected in the poem Awareness?
I love this question because when I think about being an adult and being like 80 or 90 and having a childlike nature, there is nothing about it that is meant to be childish. It's meant to be childlike, and they have an innocence and they have a magic about the way they see the world. And so when we are in a place of awareness, we can almost slow down time to where we appreciate like a door opening and it closing and something else opening. We appreciate every moment between them. And I think that's important for like us to be present and for us to enjoy every single small thing, because those small things are really the ones that make life worth living. It's like when my flowers end up blooming or when I get a tomato on the vine finally ready to eat. It took so many months for that to happen. People think that like, and even I did before I started gardening and growing flowers, that it's just easy to grow a flower. But a flower actually takes time, it takes work, it takes the right amount of sun, the right amount of rain, the right amount of watering, the right amount of attention or not attention to be what it is. And so I just see it as like a thing of awareness to be mindful of all the different phases a journey, of a day, of a moment, you know? I
I
think
like
that's
that.
important for me anyway, in my life
Mhm.
experience, to be able to see those things.
But this is, I like what you said, is you said it's, their childlike wonder can slow down time and they can be in the momentary transition of one door closing and another door open. That's very nicely put because it's being present to pay attention to where you are, the moment, the now, as opposed to rushing through the door, the next door opening like we do as adults. Let's just hurry up and get there. Let's do. But with children, it really is a paying attention to what's happening right now, like what's right in front of you. I like the way you put that. Okay, so when you're following your inner light, you're always right. That's from the poem Right Light on page 15 of Maps for the Modern World. And when I think of following your light, I think of turning towards love, trust, faith, and courage. And it requires clear knowing, discernment, clarity of your intention, and self-trust, to name just a few things. But I'm sure like I do, that does not always feel easy. There can be this push and pull between whatever doubt you're feeling towards whatever it is you want to do or experience or create, and wanting to trust. This push pull between that doubt and following the light. So how do you determine whether it's your spirit, your inner light, or ego speaking to you?
I like the idea of practicing because, you know, I deal with a lot of darkness. In order for me to be able to write things about light, I have to personally go through some darkness because I know when I'm following the doubt and when I'm following the light in a moment, in an exact moment, and in the whole time periods, like decades or whatever it might be. And I think that having a practice is so important for me because when the voice is chattering all of these many doubts and all of these fears, if I say to myself, okay, it's tea time, make tea. And I say to myself, okay, it's time for my meditation, just 10 minutes. If I say to myself, it's time to water the plants, okay. I'm calling forth all of these things that I do in a present moment, and that equals a day. It's time for 10 minutes of dance. It's time for my walk. It's time to pay bills, carving out those times of things that you have to do in your life so that that voice can just do what it's supposed to do, which is tell you all the things that could go wrong, but you
Yeah.
don't give it the attention it needs because you have a system of practices that keep you where you say, okay, I hear you, but this is where my mind is. This is where my direction is. This is where my focus is. I heard that. And back
Mhm.
to the practice. So it's always going to be there. And sometimes you do turn and go and follow it. Oh, but when you have the practice, you know that, oh, this time of day, it's time for me to pull a card. I need to pull a card. I need to hear something positive from some other source.
Yes.
Or whatever it might be, and just having those things, making a list of like 10 things that bring you joy, and beginning to take your life and say, okay, this is my practice. Even if I just do them for 5 minutes, this is my practice. And this is how, when that voice gets too loud, I know I can shift my energy and pull myself to a different space.
Yes, I do. I do. I do. I mean, the practices are so helpful to keep bringing you back to center, to bring you back to the light, to bring you back. I mean, they're very, very important for me. And I know sometimes, when there's things that you want to do, yeah, there's that egoic, there's that fearful side, there's that doubt. And the practices are very, very helpful. But do you have a feeling or anything to differentiate? Okay, that's definitely spirit, my inner light pushing me or urging me to go this way, to look at this, and to know that the loud thoughts that are like in the head are more egoic. So you have a feeling, and then to strengthen that feeling and to rest in that, you might meditate or do yoga or have tea, you're saying?
Yeah, yes, I am saying that, and I am a super emotional person, so I have constant feelings.
Yeah.
Like they will just wash over me, and they'll overtake me, and I have to have these practices to keep that part of myself like streaming to my benefit because I know it's never
Mm.
going to go away, but
Hmm.
I know also that I can use it. That, it's meant to help me in the way of things I wish to see. It's not like bad or good, it just is. It's one of those voices. And it sometimes is a pushing force to motivate me to do what I really want to do. And so I think like having it there and truly feeling all the emotions from anger to sadness to happiness to joy, all of it, like just feeling it. I clearly feel it in my body when I'm following spirit. I feel it. It's just so like it's almost as if it overtakes me and I'm not physical anymore. I'm not in this body anymore. It is
Hmm.
like when I'm writing a song or something and that spirit or that voice is coming through me and I'm hearing it like I'm listening to a radio. And it's just singing this beautiful melody to me and I translate it to you. That's what it's like when I make the choices in my life to follow my highest good. It's like it's just like I'm being like put in the place I need to be in order to be guided to the things I need to be guided to. And I look back and I'm like, how did I get there? I didn't do
Yeah.
anything.
I know. That is the beautiful part of the creative process. And it's also the beautiful part of how necessary each of us is. Because when you are really tapped into that creative spiritual aspect, there can be a feeling like something is flowing through you. And it's like, wow, I create that? Did that come through me? But if you are the conduit and open for that message, it's going to come through you in the perfect way that can be received by people that are aware of you. So I don't know. I love it that we can each create so many beautiful different things and expressions. Okay, so let's talk about Collective Mind's Eye. This poem is so relevant to the time that we're living in right now. I thought perhaps you could grace us with a reading of it and then talk a little bit about the inspiration and the deeper message that you'd like to convey.
Okay. A collective mind.
Page. Mhm. Okay.
We rose to shores that felt like sinking sands, harvested seeds from brittle, barren land. We had no words when they said take a stand. Our voices lost, hoarse, sore, placed no demands. We scattered seeds in fields that can't be seen, because we know with daily watering will come a flower rich, winter to spring. Collective mind's eye creates everything. Our actions kept us steady on the grind. We could have spoken, but that would have taken too much time. We're ever forward, shaping a new earth. Our moments numbered, each breath equals worth. They had them tied up, all watching the news. They had them giving up all their rights to choose. They had them and they didn't even know. The wheel of life breeds life and onward flow. Collective mind's eye must be center stage to halt a juggernaut of multi-centuries rage. Collective mind's eye, man against machine. Collective mind's eye creates everything.
I love that poem. And you sound exactly like you did in the audiobook. Like you really did. Okay. Okay. So talk about the inspiration and the deeper message of that. I love it.
Well, in looking at the world and seeing, especially as a woman of color, like all that we face and we go through, and I just think that every being human experiences and faces trials. But when we look at what we're going through and we look at where we wish to be, we can see that things are upheld by all of us having one vision. We're all responsible for all of the good and we're all responsible for all of the bad. So how can we shift to where we see more of the good? Because like we said earlier, the bad, the doubt, the fear, that's not going anywhere. It's going to be there. But we can begin to recarve this planet and create a more elevated earth, a more harmonious existence, and a place of oneness for all people. Where when you see someone with colored skin, or someone who's a woman, or someone who's transgender, you don't have these projections upon them. You receive them as a beautiful light being, and you're ready to just live on a new plane. We can live there, but it starts first in our minds, and it starts one mind at a time. But those minds working together as a collective shift what we see in the physical world. So our work is very much so like a seed in the invisible world, and a seed that's in the dirt where you can't see what's going on down there. Our work is inner. And I feel like we've spent a lot of time doing outer work. We've marched in the streets. We've protested. We've been hosed down. But what about the inner work?
Yes.
What about claiming the joy and claiming the peace and claiming the stillness inside and calling that forth? Because what we see inside is what begins to become the outside. And
Mhm.
because we get distracted by the news, by all the things that are going on around, and those things put us in fear mode, we advertisements or different things that, distractions can be beautiful too. They don't have to be dark. Any of those things, we get distracted from those things. They keep us from like really, really touching that heart space and recreating what we see today, Because if we
Mhm.
take the time to really dive in there, and each person is diving in, and each person is consciously creating a new world inside first, saying, this is the way I'm going to relate to people who don't look like me or who aren't uh, like at the plane I'm on, you know, well, then that begins to shift, and it happens first in your heart, but then your friends, and then your family, and then your neighbor, and you don't have to worry about the rest of the world. Like, it'll shift. It shifts because and you can trust that they are seeing this beauty and they want to cultivate this light too. You can
Mhm.
trust that all the people, and it becomes like a domino effect of light across the planet, and us truly seeing each other, and us truly like moving forward. And when the poem starts and it's talking about, our voices being lost, hoarse, and sore, we've said all the things. What else can we say? You know, we've said, hey, let's look at this a new way. We've been mistreated. Please see us in a new light. We've done all that work, that's been done. So to me, it's like it's time for us to change our direction and claim joy. And joy is the door to opening up to all of these seeds of flowers of beauty, of richness. We will see huge shifts in claiming that. Because when people see people having a good time, they want to get over there and have a good
It's
time.
contagious. Yeah. I want a piece of that.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that one because it really is. I mean, you made so many great points, and one that stood out to me is that it really is an internal job first. I mean, I was just talking with a friend a couple of weeks ago about how when I was in college and thinking, oh, I'm going to change the world, I had no thoughts about anything internal. It was all about going out and doing something so that they could do something different. And, those people need to change, but really it all is internal. I mean, it's a reflective universe. So you're paying attention to not only what you're doing, but what you're thinking, because your thoughts and beliefs inform your actions. So it's really important to know what's going on within you and to be peaceful within yourself, because if you can't see it in yourself, you're going to be able to see it in anything else. So you do want to see these loving aspects of yourself, and then you will be able to see it in others. So that brings us to the next section. In the introduction, you have introductions for each section in the book. And before journey and dreams begins, you write that everything happens first in the invisible realm of thought and pure consciousness, which we were just talking about. And this essentially says that I will see it when I believe it. But the common thought is I'll believe it when I see it. So can you talk about the mind's eye and even your poem visualization about the role it plays in your creative process of believing, then seeing? It's actually the other way around. You have to believe it first and then you'll see it.
Which is so hard, and you can spend your whole life working on mastering that trick of existence because there's
Preach.
a lot of But I decided that I wanted to make my life path following a dream because I felt like dreams are invisible. They're just like this cloud in our minds of, oh, how nice that would be. And we get
Yeah.
these visions of these things we want to do. But my purpose in following a dream was to understand how easy or not easy it is to take something that's invisible and make it visible. So, how easy is it to believe that, for example, I can be a singer, and play guitar when I don't play any instruments at all at the age of 18? And I, am so scared to get in front of a crowd and sing. So, how am I going to get from here to what I see in my mind? And the way that I decided to do it was see myself there and spend basically the last decade and a half walking into that moment. But first having to see it in my mind. So I put this whole idea that visualization says into practice because people can tell you all the time, leap and the net will appear. But
Mhm.
until you actually leap, then you don't know. You just like, well, that sounds nice, but
Right, right, right.
so actually like putting it into practice, visualization and things like that is what I dedicated my life to doing. And there have been times when I was crunching numbers so hard that it's like I need to eat. How am I gonna figure this out? But
Mhm.
all of that was part of the practice. Um and there have been times where I would be like in my path and I would be like, well, like this isn't happening, that isn't happening, going down the list of failures, basically.
Mhm.
and then I would say to myself, wow, you know what? I'm not looking where I need to be looking. It's time for me to look higher. And as soon as I looked higher, then all of these different doors started opening. But because I was too in the hustle or two in the work of like making things happen versus see it, believe it, and receive, then it was frustrating. So every time that I start getting too doubtful or too going down the list of negatives in my day or my life, then I just start dreaming big and start imagining all kinds of amazing things. And in doing that, all you can do is fall a little bit short of it or overachieve it. I mean, so what's the harm?
Fall a little bit short or overachieve it. Okay, that's a simple way to look at it. And then also, I think when you're thinking about things, if you're talking about visualization first, you have to know that it's a practice to do, that you see it for that everything is created from the invisible. You have to see it first, and then it is going to manifest into reality, however it's going to come. But it just seems that I don't know, like sometimes when we're trying to manifest things or create a life experience for ourselves, some dreams we may have, they feel so big in our mind. And there are other things that are so much smaller. It's like, oh, I can easily manifest a cup of coffee. I know that's going to happen. But when it comes to the weight we or significance we place on being a professional singer, we move that mentally into a different category that I think it makes it harder for us to even believe because we have all these, well, we would have to climb 50,000 steps on that ladder. And how am I But for a cup of coffee, something so small like that, you know that's going to show up. So sometimes it almost seems like we could play this little game of trying to somehow mentally and emotionally reconcile them in our minds so they have equal weight and not, and we're not thinking this is a huge thing, because then it brings all this emotion and feel it with. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, the heavy, it brings heaviness. When
Yeah.
it's like each little tiny step is the goal and the fun part, and when you start to send the mind to the big place of soaring, then something just happens where you start to really just enjoy the tiny steps. They become lighter versus when you're really like, I gotta, and I gotta. That's too much. Just dance through it.
And that is, you just did the segue into the next question, Valerie June, about your poem Tiny Steps on page 35. It's another one of my favorites, because you will realize, well, you're right. By the time you get to where you are going, everything will seem so small. You will realize that it has always just been a series of tiny steps. It brings me back to the idea that it's all about the journey, the experience, and the small daily choices along the road to the goal. But it sounds like you at some point you realized that it was not just about the goal; it was about the tiny steps.
There was a point, and there's I revisit that point pretty regularly because it's so easy to be out on a journey in life and be thinking only of the goal. But the practice is, wait a minute, I don't want to miss smelling that rose or saying hi to the neighbor as I'm on the way, because what really are all of these things we're reaching for and striving for anyway? I think that like the goal for me is just it's playing with what's possible in the physical realm and understanding that so that when I'm not in the physical realm anymore, I will have appreciated every single thing that I was doing when I was there, like going on a trip, like going to
Mhm.
Bahamas. You go and you have a great time and you want to enjoy everything from the pina colada to the waves on the beach to the sun rising and the sun setting. So when you get back, you can tell all your friends and your family what a great trip. It's the same to me with being on earth. You want to enjoy all of the steps on the way through this life, because when we leave this body, hopefully we can just be in the place of joy of like, I did all of this stuff and all of this stuff, and yes, some bullshit happened, but I took a detour and I went a positive way and
Yeah.
enjoyed all of it. You know, like you just want the whole story to just look so beautiful.
Hmm.
And if you think about it in terms of multiple lives, then you would have all of these spans of lives that would just be one beautiful, awesome story after another. Yeah, there'd be dark times, but it would just be like so like intricate in the way that it weaves together this awesome book of life tale, you know.
Okay, so lastly, Maps for the Modern World is organized into 5 parts. The maps you lay out go through consciousness and awareness, journey and dreams. Dreams are so important. Lamentations and transformations, earth and other worlds, and mindfulness, mantras, and meditations. You wrote a book of poems around the aforementioned themes we can use to navigate the experience of life, which is in essence a journey through our own consciousness. And the poems reflect the creative, freedom seeking potential we all have within us that is available to be realized. So, with this in mind, what has been the most surprising or even unexpected part of your spiritual journey?
Well, the most surprising thing to me is I really feel that I am a bodhisattva and that there are so many bodhisattvas. There's a lawyer bodhisattvas, there are writer bodhisattvas, there are yogi bodhisattvas. There are people who come to earth to like just lift people up and to surround them with light and to lift the planet. And I think that that is why I came. And I think I'm doing everything I can do, from writing to dancing to whatever it might be, playing music, to help share that. But one of the things about taking, coming here and knowing that you are that is that there is always a chance that you can become overwhelmed with planetary things.
Oh,
They
yes.
shift your energy. And so just staying focused on the light and staying in that place of light in order to return when I'm not in this body anymore to the same place I was before I got here, and go even further beyond into even brighter spaces. That's the biggest shock, the shock of, wow, if I get too inundated with heaviness, then making the transition back is going to take a whole lot of work.
Yeah,
I don't know if that
yeah.
makes any sense to you, but that's my spiritual.
No, it totally, I mean, a bodhisattva, wow. I mean, I was thinking all kinds of things when you were, like, I mean, yes, we're all on the journey. We're all on the path. We're all in essence walking each other home. But yeah, I understand it because it really seems like not the test, but the journey is in the midst of all of this that we have participated in the co-creation of all of these unseen aspects of the world that we don't like. It's also a part of us as much as these beautiful aspects of life that we do like. But the bodhisattva, and even, you know, if you don't see yourself as a bodhisattva, but it really is it seems like a path of mastery, of really holding the light in the midst of so much darkness around us. I often have this image of, like a tornado just floating around me, and I'm seated in a lotus position, just kind of levitating up and back down. And it's like not getting sucked into the darkness of that. Sometimes you do have your moments where you're like, ooh, what happened over here? Or wow, why am I so interested in that? And then it's a coming back, it's a coming back. And so when you say that, like bringing light and holding the light, it does just really make me think that it feels like we're on the journey to a mastery of love and a mastery of light. And just what comes to mind is just walking towards being an ascended master coming out of this incarnation. I mean, we will seriously be getting some wings after this.
Yes.
There is a lot going on. I mean, we have to break out all the spiritual tools at this time.
It's so true. The time that you come and everything, it all matters. And I think that bodhisattvas, they choose to come back with that purpose
Yeah.
to be that light and to share that light. But they could well not choose to come back. They don't have to
Yes.
be physical. Like, I spend a lot of time in the spirit world.
Uh-huh.
And like, this choice to come back, when they do come back, there is always a chance that their energy could get a little bit, it might need some tuning after all of
Yes.
this. You know?
Yes.
So that's all I'm saying. What was
Yeah.
the question again? That's
No, I like everything you said, but it was what has been the most surprising aspect or unexpected part of your spiritual journey. And you said being a bodhisattva,
yeah.
that's how you see yourself. Okay, Valerie June, you are holding the flame. And I definitely feel there is a tremendous amount of love coming through your music. I have had Astral Plane on loop, like, repeat during my walk for so long. And it's so beautiful to hear someone singing about consciousness and hovering in those realms. Yes, you're here for your physical incarnation and you have to be present because you chose to come here. But I like that. I like that spiritual. I love spirituality. It seems like it's all I'm interested in.
Me too. And
I
I
love
love
it.
talking to you because it's just like a lot of the things that would need to be explained like when you said we live in a reflective world, I'm like, yes, I don't have to
Mhm.
explain that we are mirrors
Yes,
of each other, and or that I'm not the only bodhisattva. There's a lot
there
of people,
are.
you
Yeah.
know, and all of the inner work and stuff. It's just refreshing when you meet kindred spirits and you're able to have conversations, but also the other side is refreshing too when you
Yes.
or just talking to anyone or just being here, just to be here is
Hmm.
so.
Yeah, it is
But
very,
no,
very precious to be here. Well, I really hope you enjoy listening to this conversation with Valerie June. It was everything that I hoped it would be. Little Visionaries is an independent bookstore that beyond selling books, hosts community-focused interviews and author events. And remember, the best way to support your local independent bookstore and the community we serve is as simple as buying a book. A poetic call for mindfulness, creativity, and analog real world connection in an increasingly disconnected world from singer songwriter Valerie June. Maps for the Modern World is a collection of poems and original illustrations about cultivating community, awareness, and harmony with our surroundings as we fearlessly move towards our dreams. You can learn more about Valerie June at valeriejune.com. Thank you, Valerie.
thank you. Have a wonderful day.